Hi folks, this is Johnny Cancer, and welcome back to Let's Play Dr. Chaos. Forget what warp zone we're on now. 6 or 7, I don't remember. And I wanted to point out, you'll notice, we don't jump that high here, even though we have the jump boots. And we're not wearing the helmet. And that's because those items only work in the warp zones. Don't know why. Okay. Give me a minute because I don't exactly remember. Here we go. I think this is where I needed to go. I forgot last time. Took me like 15 minutes of exploring the house and trying to figure out where I was supposed to be. Let's get that. Ah, here we go. Oh, I got it on the first try. Okay. I want to talk a little more about H.P. Lovecraft, because I've mentioned him a couple of times. And I'm guessing some of you probably know him. He's best well known. He was a horror writer, an American horror writer. He wrote short stories at the beginning of the 20th century, I think between the 1920s and the 1940s. I don't exactly remember when he died. Might have been in the 50s, might have been a little bit earlier. Anyway, he's a bit obscure, and he's certainly an acquired taste as far as horror is concerned, as the majority of his stories are first-person narratives, generally in the form of journal entries. It can be a bit boring and slow-moving, unless you're really into that stuff. I love it, but, you know, it's not for everybody. Stephen King is not. But, even if you don't know who H.P. Lovecraft is, you are familiar with his work because, he was the guy that basically invented the modern zombie, as we know it. And it's essentially, even if it's not acknowledged, this is where George A. Romero probably got the idea for the Night of the Living Dead zombies. And that concept comes from a story written by H.P. Lovecraft called Herbert West, Re-Animator. And the reason why it's unique, it's not that the idea of zombies did not exist before then, but Herbert West, Re-Animator is the first story in which a doctor, using scientific and medical procedures, is able to reanimate corpses, and the corpses come back basically unintelligible and extremely violent. Ah, this boss. He's not that bad, really. We can get him. If I can just... Oh, I hate the item system in the game. Here we go. That's the hardest part, is just trying to switch to the item you want to actually use at the right time. But anyway, yes, the story takes place in New England. It's the first story to mention the fictional Miskatonic University, which would appear in later Lovecraft stories, and also made some appearances in the Ghostbusters animated TV series, and has been mentioned in a couple of other sci-fi and horror TV series throughout the 20th century. Anyway, in Herbert West Re-Animator, the main character is the friend of Herbert West, and they're both medical students, and they're both interested in reanimating dead bodies and trying to cheat death. And of course, like any good obsession, it leads to stealing corpses. Because what Herbert West discovers is that the longer you wait to reanimate a corpse, the less favorable the results are going to be. Come on. Use a grenade. Anyway, it's an interesting story. Eventually the two become doctors during World War II. And their commanding officer's head is severed in a plane crash, and West reanimates him. The commanding officer comes back to life, and runs off and decides to seek vengeance on West and the narrator by rounding up all of the subjects that West had reanimated over the years and creating an army of the undead to come after West and destroy him. It's quite an interesting story, actually. Maybe sounds a bit more exciting than it actually reads. But again, Lovecraft is not for everybody. It was made into a movie in the 1980s, I believe it was. Oh, here we are already. Well, let's go do some item gathering while I finish talking about all this nerdy stuff. It was made into a movie in the 1980s, starring Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West, and it was directed by Stuart Gordon. The reason why that's interesting is because Stuart Gordon also directed another movie based on an H.P. Lovecraft story called From Beyond. And in the movie, Jeffrey Combs, who played Herbert West in the Re-Animator movie, played Crawford Tillinghast, who was the, I believe, the main character in From Beyond. So yeah, and since I'm postulating that From Beyond was the inspiration for this video game, I thought you all might like to know that. Anyway, that's enough of me talking about obscure 20th century horror that nobody likes and nobody cares about. So until next time, folks, I'm Johnny Cancer, and I hope I'll see you back for more of Let's Play Dr. Chaos!